पंजाब टेलीविजन देख रहे सारे दर्शकों ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਨਮਸਕਾਰ ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਮਨਨ ਗੁਪਤਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੁੜ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੋ ਰੋਡ ਟੂਡੇ 360 ਸ਼ੋਅ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਦੀ ਪੇਸ਼ਕਸ਼ ਰੋਡ ਟੂਡੇ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਗਰੁੱਪ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਐਕਸਕਲੂਸਿਵਲੀ ਫॉर पंजाब टेलीविजन और इस प्रोग्राम ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਟਰੱਕਿੰਗ ਟਰਾਂਸਪੋਰਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਆਟੋਮੋਟਿਵ ਔਰ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰੀਏ ਔਰ ਰੋਡ ਸੇਫਟੀ ਇੱਕ ਅਹਿਮ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਦਾ ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਖਾਸ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਨੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਭਲੀ ਭਾਂਤੀ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਹੋ ਰੇਡੀਓ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਟੀਵੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮਸ ਤੇ ਔਰ ਮੇਰੀ ਮੁਰਾਦ ਹੈ ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦੇ Sgt Kerry Schmidt. Kerry, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Manan.
It's always great to have somebody like you who knows every bit of what's happening on roads, our highways, and road safety.
It's busy. There's always things happening. I don't know everything, but I certainly do see a lot that happens every single day. And sadly, so often it's problems on the roads that affect so many other motorists as well.
Exactly. So we are in the new year, and I have seen some alarming increase in fatalities and collisions. What makes it so, road crash worthy?
Well, that's one thing that we're concerned about as well. In the first 15 days of January, 26 people lost their lives in collisions across the province. And that is up significantly, over 270% from where we were last year. 7 people had died last year at the same time, and now we're at 26. Unbelievably tragic. Winter is here. January, we're in the depths of winter and snow and ice and cold. But I'm sure weather may have played a role in some of these collisions. But one thing I do want to really hammer down is that road conditions and weather conditions don't cause crashes, if they're poor or not. It comes down to drivers driving poorly in those conditions because these crashes still are very preventable.
Exactly. So driver behavior is one of the most important reasons which you see when you go to, check out on these collisions.
Absolutely. We'll look at, because the most important person in a vehicle is the driver.
Right.
We had a quadruple fatality in a 2-vehicle crash just last week on Highway 7 where the roads were covered in snow, a vehicle was traveling along the highway and the car behind it wanted to pass. He wasn't going fast enough. He wanted to go faster because he thought his vehicle could do so. And as he pulled out to pass, he lost control, and as he lost control, he hit an oncoming vehicle, instantly killing 3 people in that vehicle. The 4th person was taken to hospital and died a few days later. Absolutely tragic, and all for maybe making up a couple of seconds or a couple of car lengths. Sadly, we see this happening over and over again, and that's just one of many crashes that we've had already this year.
Yeah. Kerry, we have seen such unfortunate incidents not only happening on regional roads but also on the 400 series highways. We just had a major fatality on 401 eastbound, where 2 people died early morning.
It was, and we're looking into investigating that as well because the vehicle lost control for some reason. We're still investigating that, whether or not it was mechanical or driver error, passing vehicles, but he ramped up onto the guardrail, hit a pole. 2 people were killed instantly in that collision. And it's just, in those conditions, the roads appeared to be relatively bare and dry. It was cold, very cold, and there was snow along the shoulders, but we're still looking into that to see what was the actual cause of that crash. But again, 2 people lost their lives, and now we're trying to provide answers to the family that will never have their loved ones back.
Yeah. Temperatures have been going up and down. We have had very severe round of, some snowstorms, snowfall. And now these days it is little mild. So sometimes people get confused, how to monitor their driving.
Well, today the roads are dry for the most part. There's some snow that's melting and there may be wet sections that go across the highways. Also keep in mind, when we have these fluctuations in temperature, we now start maybe getting some deterioration of the road surface. We get potholes and different things that you need to be aware of. And sometimes a driver may see something and swerve to avoid it, but they may swerve to a point of causing a collision or losing control. So, always be mindful of that, and conditions can change very quickly. You can go from a very good condition, dry road, and you have snow that's melting and you have a wet section, which makes it more slippery. And as the temperature goes above zero and then maybe drops down below freezing in the overnight hours, or as temperature falls, we may have icy sections as well. And some of that water that melts may wash away some of the salt that's on there. And I know the crews are out there putting down salt and keeping the highways clear, but that's why it's so important for the drivers when you're driving down the roads to be looking as far down to the horizon to look for changing traffic patterns, changing road conditions, and even weather patterns. You may also have a snow streamer or a squall that comes up, and you go from perfect visibility to zero visibility. And if you're driving in those conditions and zero visibility at 100 kilometers per hour, you have no opportunity to stop.
Yes.
And it really is important for drivers to think about that, because there's consequences to driver action, and sometimes those consequences can be something you don't want. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, that is so unfortunate when we see fatalities and collisions and injuries happening due to driver behavior, due to, you know, unmanageable driver behavior.
Yes.
You know, so you mentioned about maintenance crews, highway maintenance crews. I have seen much improvement this year, especially. You know, in the past there were some complaints that the highways were not properly, you know, served by snowplows. So do you see any?
Do you know what, the last snow event we had just last weekend, I was out on the highways and I came across echelon, like large scale plowing operations with the plows clearing the snow and the salters right behind it putting down the salt, and the road maintenance supervisors making sure everything was being done properly. You know, they're out there all the time. But when we're in that environment, when the snow was continuing to fall, it's hard for them to actually keep up to the demands of the road conditions, because as they clear it, more snow is deposited down. And when there's traffic that's moving slowly, it can take hours longer than what it should for them to be able to get through their entire route to come back and return. And I've seen complete plow operations at a dead stop on the highway, stuck in traffic. And so they can't move because traffic isn't moving. And so on those days are days that I'd encourage drivers, if you don't absolutely have to be on the highways, stay home. Let the road crews clear the highways, and you can come out later on when the highways are managed and the highways are clear.
Absolutely. You know, we encourage our viewers to stay alert, slow down, and please drive according to weather conditions. If weather is changing, if driver conditions are not, accustomed to drive, please stay at home or work from home or, you know, tele work. But please don't make yourself prone to more injuries and more collisions. Kerry, you know, OPP is definitely using a lot of communication tools to make commuters aware of the driving conditions. I see a lot of your different detachments, you know, your officers go live on Twitter, on Periscope. So do you see those tools becoming very helpful for the commuters?
Well, absolutely, because it's not just for the commuters that we're trying to message, but even the media are watching that as well, and they know where we are, what's going on, and we can give live updated reports to the public, so they know what areas to avoid, and they can see exactly what the issue is, because very often you're stuck in traffic and you come up to a road closure and you get forced off the highway. You don't know why the highway's closed, but you're frustrated. But when you can actually see that, oh, it's because there's a transport truck across all lanes and there's a fuel spill or diesel or vehicle parts, and there's cleanup crews ongoing trying to repair the damage, maybe there's a little more understanding. But yeah, we certainly use our live stream apps through Twitter and Periscope, Facebook Live, and other apps that we have to go directly to the media as well, to update them, give them ETAs and timelines and ideas as to what the alternate routes are as well. And hopefully it makes your drive to work a little smoother. At least you have a little better understanding as to why maybe you're going to be running a little bit late, and you're not going to start taking chances and putting yourself and everybody else who you share the road with at risk.
Yeah. So for those viewers, those who follow Twitter or who are, you know, still trying to find the, you know, updates from OPP, I would encourage you to please follow Sgt Kerry Schmidt. His Twitter handle is OPP_HSD.
HSD, that's right.
And it's a very updated, Twitter account. You get regular updates. But in case of any emergency, you must call 911, right?
911, absolutely. If you're on the highways and you see something that's going on, you can report an emergency. We don't want you being distracted, but if there's something that is emergent, call 911. You can try calling star OPP on your cell phone as well, and that'll put you in contact with our local communication center in your area, and you can speak directly to the dispatchers to let them know what the issue is that you're experiencing. If you see a disabled vehicle, you can call our non-emergency line, but there's always resources out there that we want to be able to provide assistance with. It's so important that you you know where you are, you have your emergency equipment in your vehicle, and keep your cell phone charged up when you need it. But please, when you're driving, put the phones down and focus on the road.
Absolutely. Eyes on the road and hands on your, steering, and your mind should be focused on, driving.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
I'm glad you mentioned about distracted driving. So the big four,
Yes.
All those four factors are still the major reasons of collisions.
We see it consistently over and over again, and it's not just something that's specific to Ontario or Toronto, but we see it all across Canada and even all across North America when I speak to law enforcement officers from other areas of North America, and I'm sure around the world as well, is that we see people getting killed because of aggressive driving, speeding, not paying attention, distracted driving, inattentive driving, and we see a lot of impaired driving still as well. And not just by alcohol, but by drugs. We're seeing more and more drug-impaired drivers as well. And then the other issue that we see inside the vehicles that is a causal factor that would otherwise be survivable is people not wearing their seatbelts. It's such a simple thing. Put on your seatbelt, because that could be the cheapest and easiest piece of insurance that could keep you alive in case of a collision.
Absolutely. So the big four factors, as Sgt Kerry Schmidt just mentioned: aggressive driving, impaired driving, distracted driving, and non-usage of seatbelt. I have been calling it the 21st century AIDS, AIDS. It's easy way to remember and easy way to improve your driver behavior. Aggressive driving, impaired, distracted, and usage of seatbelt. Sgt Kerry, these are the big fours, and all the police forces, they always try to communicate and make people aware of that. But do you see, especially talking about the impaired driving, July is not too far, and legalizing of marijuana.
Well,
does your law enforcement agencies have enough tools to find those and stop those drivers?
We're doing it already, and we have officers out there that are trained in standard field sobriety testing. We have officers that are specialized experts in drug recognition, and they can determine whether or not someone is impaired by a drug, by what kind of a drug, and to what level they are impaired. And those tests have been deemed to be reliable in courts. They've been approved by the medical professions as well. They go through a whole series of coordination tests inside the detachment where we do these tests, and then we'll even ask for oral fluid or urine samples as well, or blood samples, to determine exactly what kind of drug this person may be impaired by, and convictions are being entered. So with the proposed changes in legislation with recreational marijuana, that's something that we're certainly keeping our eyes very close on, but we are already out there making sure that drivers are paying attention and they're not getting themselves into a position when they're putting themselves and others at risk because of impairment.
Absolutely. So there is zero tolerance here in Ontario and many other provinces. So please be extra cautious if you are taking any medication, and if you are using any illegal drugs. Please don't involve yourself in driving, because you can be charged. It's a criminal offense, and you can be involved in any collision which could be unfortunately fatal also. So please, our advice and our request is only to please make sure that you follow the road safety rules and regulations. So you're watching Road Today 360. Sama ho gaya ek choti ji break da. We'll be back after this small commercial break. Stay tuned, and we'll talk further with Sgt Kerry Schmidt, who is the representing Highway Safety Division of Ontario Provincial Police. We will be right back.